You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it's Monday. Time to fire up those machines, turn those machines back on, because it is time once again to kick off another broadcast week with everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yup, time for the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you folks have been calling home now for over 18 years. Crazy. Wild to say that out loud. Some of our newer listeners were kind of just born when the network was launching. So we're just maybe a few years old. So we run the gamut out there in the audience. We love you all out there. Remember, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to check out the pro Q&As, you want to check out the official after party of VolViews, known as Options Oddities. Oh, it's already March 31st as well. So you definitely want to get your name in the hat today for the March Pro Trading Craze. Only one place to go for all that fun, early access to stuff, live streams, goodies, giveaways, cool opportunities to rib the rock lobster, none other than the optionsinsider.com/pro. Check it out. I think you're going to like it as we see who's joining us on the old Monday program. I just mentioned him, so we are joined today by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, as well as by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. I mention them both now because it is time to kick off our broadcast week in high style. Gentlemen, put your hands on your buzzers. It is time for our 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right. As requested, we are using the vintage official 1980s Trivial Pursuit edition for all of our questions, so no one can accuse me of any bias or leaning towards pro wrestling or anything else that is Uncle Mike friendly. The card dictates, and the loser in the contest gets to choose the color, and he did get a point last week, which was a rare victory for him. He is still, I do believe, a half point behind. I will have to go dig up to see the exact margin, but he is still losing, which means the Rock Lobster, once again, sir, you get to choose your color. What are you feeling? You feeling blue, pink, yellow, brown, green, or orange?
I'm thinking yellow. Was yellow geography? I can't remember.
Blue is geography, yellow is history.
Yellow's history. Okay, we'll do history. Yep.
All right.
Yellow's history.
Get your hands on your buzzers, gentlemen. Here we go. All right. Oh. What does Richard Nixon have on the left side of his scalp from forehead to neck?
A scar.
Oh, you buzzed. You buzzed too. Okay, good. I was going to say, first off, I was like, I have no idea. Then I was like, well, what else could it be? A scar or probably a birthmark are the only two things you could really have on your face. I don't recall him having a massive birthmark on his face. So yes, it was a scar. Apparently, we should have called him Scarface the whole time. Who knew? Richard Nixon.
Really? We're doing questions about facial features of Richard Nixon?
Hey, the cards giveth and the cards taketh away. This week, Uncle Mike, the cards taketh away. Maybe make a note of it officially now. I do believe it is possible, Mr. Rock Lobster. With that point, you might be in the lead. I will have to have our producers confirm for sure. I think you have taken a half.
I'll tell you
lead.
what. Is hell freezing over? That's what I want to know.
Richard Nixon's scar.
And Eureka. Now this is definitely. It's a lot easier than figuring out who the heck Sergeant Slaughter is, but I guess Tosaw would disagree with that.
I mean, those are fair questions. Richard Nixon facial features. I mean, oh boy.
Some of these are on the surface difficult, but you think about them kind of obvious. Like Amen was kind of obvious. This one, you think about it, is kind of obvious. What else can you have on your face? A freckle, maybe? A big freckle. So it's got to be a scar. So, yeah.
I don't remember what the scar was from, but it kind of gave him that weird appearance, like that sort of caved
Everyone
in half
knows
of the face
in
there.
his early days, Richard Nixon, hardcore knife fighter. We all know this. And so he bears the scars of his early trade, listeners. There you go. Listen, did you get that one? An intriguing one, if ever there was one, as we keep on rolling into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business here. And it seems like if you're in the Uncle Mike camp, you might be getting a little bit of a reprieve on the business side because coming into the start of the show, well, before we get there, of course, last week we saw a kickoff to the week, a resounding rally, as we saw perhaps a ray of sunshine, a glimmer of détente in the trade wars. And then as the week went on, everyone's like, nope, F you, auto parts and everything. And then the market just fell out of bed. Vol went back up. And now kicking off the week this week, listeners, we kicked off below the 5,500 level in S&P. So you know Uncle Mike and his cabal, they were sweating. I know they put out the call. They sent out the newsletter saying, what's going on, guys? You're not buying enough. Because after that, Uncle Mike sent out his newsletter, the market turned around. We rallied from about 54.94, so off over 0.5% to now we're about 55.67. So back north of the 5,500 level, listeners. Think about that. Just a few sessions ago, we were talking about folks paying anywhere from $11 to $14 for 0-day 5,700 calls in the S&P. We are far away from that now, and we were below 5,500 earlier this morning. So you were probably paying that for 5,500 puts this morning. So how the market has changed just in a couple of sessions. But you know what? The Uncle Mike crew buying right now is still off on the S&P, but only off about 0.2% right now. So will we tick green even by the time the show is done? We shall see. The Dow was always kind of the oddball today because the Dow was green even when the S&P and the NASDAQ were really red earlier this morning. The Dow was up about 0.05%. The Dow is now up about 0.4%. And the NASDAQ, they were taking that to the woodshed as well. Let's see. How low did our pals, the Qs, get? They got below 17K, 16,885. Coming in to start the show today, they're still off 1%. But they are north of 17K now, 17,152. So a wild start to the session, let alone the week out there today. All this Sturm und Drang, listeners, translating into a little bit more juice on the screen. As we were kicking off the show, we were at a 22.25, puts us up about 3.5 points. As of right now, it's about 22.5, which puts us up about 3.75 points in VIX since the Thursday show. VVIX at the sit up and pay attention level of 103, listeners, up a whopping 12 points from our last show. So a lot going on out there. We will start with, once again, 2 weeks in a row, the winner of our trivia contest. I guess if you have any enduring memories of Richard Nixon's facial scar, by all means have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye? And looks like we got a little bit of a turnaround in session, sir.
Well, some of my students were reminding me that this is the end of the quarter today.
That
end of the quarter,
yes.
for quarter end, like JP Morgan has their big, whatchamacallit? That big roll.
The big roll, yes.
Well, those puts were $40 this morning, and they're on their way to being worth nothing right now.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, zero. Yeah, we're having quite a turnaround here. So, I mean, ultimately, what SPX is down how much for the year? What are we down? 5% for the year? We opened the year 59.20, and we're trading.
We are down 5.09% right now, sir.
How much? 5.09?
Yep.
Yeah. And again, they're trying to do some restructuring of trade agreements, restructuring the government. Nobody knows how it's going to turn out. It is causing a lot of confusion, probably with suppliers, about where they can get stuff, or they're going to have to pay tariffs. So the fact that this is out there, it's a lot. I don't think it's a whole lot different, like the short-term shocks. Like when Biden did, like all of a sudden everybody's going to be vaccinated or has to be vaccinated. They're trying those mandates, and nobody knew for who could they hire, who they couldn't hire. Like that kind of stuff makes a mess ultimately. That was 2021. Then we had 2022. Remember, we had that huge inflation. Now, it seems like the tariffs are relatively narrow in scope. Like, okay, they're going to charge the Chinese more. The Chinese tariff all our stuff. So also, I mean, I don't think we're charging tariffs to anybody that doesn't charge it to us already first. So basically, the way I look at it is the U.S. has been kind of carrying the globe since after World War II. And Trump's like, I don't think so anymore. I want everybody else to pay a little. So people can argue whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I don't know how it's going to turn out. So that's, I think, and that's causing a lot of, VIX was 17 last week. It traded 24 today. So the market seems to be actually surprisingly okay with the tariff idea. Yeah, we're down 5%, but 5% from all-time highs, with a lot of the big Q stocks still trading at 25 to 30 times PE. That to me does not sound like a total panic there. I think, yeah, was Microsoft a $450 stock and probably $350, $300 a little more reasonable? Sure. Google, okay, it's getting a little more reasonable at 18 times earnings, maybe, because they've got all the competition from AI. So I don't think, I think the reaction is just everybody's like, oh, the market's down. Well, it happens. So anyway, I'm interested in Tosaw's take, but ultimately, April 2nd is, Liberation Day for the tariffs. And we'll see how we go from there. But this morning looked kind of ugly. And as of right now, VIX is up basically just weekend adjusted. But it did look like it wanted to just sort of fall apart this morning. And everything stopped. So, you take that with what it's worth. But I do believe the market is going to get by this faster than we think, because once they're out there, we're going to know what they are. And then people will adjust from there. But one way or another, the U.S. government's got to stop spending money or start raising more money. That's all I know, because can't keep, you can't keep doing what they're doing. It's both sides, Democrats, whatever, Republicans, whatever. They got to pull their heads out and get back. They got to get back to like the late 90s. You had Clinton, you had Newt Gingrich. You came to an agreement. They, cut spending, raise a little taxes, whatever, and things work pretty good. Right now, it just seems like COVID blew the whole lid off of spending with Congress. Like there's no self-control at all. And somehow we got to get it back. So And I think the market is still trying to, digest and deal with all this. That's where we are.
That's where we are indeed. You're right. We only are off 5% from the highs. So you put that in context from the last couple of years, and it doesn't look as much like the sky is falling. We're still seeing the, hysterical headlines. We were giving Market Watch a hard time last week. Let's just do it again. I'm looking at it right now as we're talking. Big headline here on Market Watch. I invested $100,000 in the S&P in February. I've lost $10,000. How long will it take to recover? Well, first off, you lost 2x what the S&P has lost. So maybe you're in a levered S&P fund, but I don't know how you lost 10% when the S&P is off 5. But I digress. Maybe he bought the absolute high, in which case that could, I guess, supposed to be. But what are you doing putting $100K in the S&P in February right now without calling Uncle Mike first to talk to you about how to protect it anyway? So that's on you, person who is now freaking out there. But I digress. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, first off, congrats on putting the newsletter out early this morning, getting the cabal to turn this thing around. And what are your thoughts on as we're starting to trend in your direction today, sir?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good sign in that we haven't had, it's either a good sign or a bad sign that we haven't had just the royal flush out in this market. We did have the, we have had the move with which it's come down 10% from all-time highs. Just to the listener that may have bought the market in February, I'm just looking at the all-time high. It looks like it's in February 20th, I believe, at 61.47 in the S&P. And he's definitely down 10% or possibly over 10% from the all-time high. So, I mean, that's kind of where it's at. Yes, we are down 5% on the year, if you count year to date, but we did make new all-time highs a little over a month ago. So it's been a rough month for the bulls. And so I don't know if this approximation of 10% off of the all-time highs is where we need to go to find some type of relief, or where the buyers actually come in, if you will. But I think that it's important to, as you guys were rightfully doing, putting this into perspective, in that the fact that we're in a really big bull market these last couple of years. And so from there, I don't care what's going on with tariffs, with Ukraine, with all these different things. You could definitely make a case, the fact that if we're up 20% in 2023, 20% in 2024, getting a 10% pullback, that's kind of natural, I think, regardless of what the headlines are. The fact that we're not getting a major give back, if you will, even with this bad news, I'm viewing that as a more positive sign. I know that's shocking, me being the bull with which I am. I'm viewing that as more of a positive sign, instead of, hey, these tariffs are horrible, awful, and bad, or whatever. I'm viewing this the fact that even though we have these things already known to the market, that we're only down a little bit based upon where we've come from. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Combine that with the fact that we have bonds that are relatively stable. We're not getting any type of craziness in the bond market right now to either the upside or the downside. We are getting a little bit of a rally in silver. We are getting rallies in gold. So the precious metals are rallying. So we are getting that. I think that's a sign of inflation. But I mean, if you just look at how much of this market is based upon a technical pullback and how much of it is based upon just the craziness that has been happening, just looking at a chart of Tesla, and we don't own any Tesla in any of our portfolios at RCM, so please don't come and throw bricks through our office windows or anything, but I'm just saying this to illustrate a point. Tesla was at 488 in December. Tesla got as low as 230. It's at 254 right now as I'm looking at this. Regardless of what your political ambitions are, your political opinions are, when you have stocks that just take a royal bath like this, you're going to get a little bit of a pullback in the overall market. Combine that with other ones such as like Nvidia, for example. It was at 150 at one point earlier in the year. Now it's at 105. A few stocks made this market go tremendously to the upside, and it's a few stocks that are dragging it down right now. So keep it in perspective with everything, because if these stocks that have been getting sold off, the FANGs, the Magnificent Sevens, if these levels will attract buyers, there's other stocks in the market that have not gotten beat up quite so badly, and 2025 could end up being a very big year. So it's important to, yes, you need to be well protected and be hedged in the hedged section of your portfolio. You need to ride things out in the buy and hold section of your portfolio. But the thing that I think is important for all of our listeners to understand is you need to have a good perspective and understand the full picture of what's going on. And that's what's going on.
Let's see what's going on out here in the rest of the market, shall we, listeners? Let's go out to VIX land first, listeners. And is VIX having a banger? Is it asleep at the wheel again? What's going on out here in VIX land? Well, luckily you came to the right show to find out, listeners. VIX actually, compared to some of our last few shows on vol views when it was struggling to get north of 300K halfway through the show, we were a little bit better than that, a little bit more respectable. 460 on the tape right now. The ADV kind of holding firm at 1.14 million right now. And looking at big dog prints out there today, looks like the most active contract out there in VIX land, we got 30,000 of the April 25s, followed by 20,000 of the April 19 puts. Looks like also we got a May 25.50 vertical going up for about $1.48 out there. That's kind of an interesting one. It seems like paper maybe selling that. Now there is some OI on some of these strikes, so they could be bailing out there. But I suppose that could be maybe an intriguing flash pull. Maybe we'll get to that later if we have a little bit of time out there. But VIX right now, 460 on the tape, followed by SPY, listeners. Is SPY on fire out there today? The answer is yeah, it's doing pretty good. 6.8 million contracts. This used to be the point of the show where we would expect, 4.25, 4.33, maybe 4.5 million. So quite a bit north of that. The ADV, that used to be when the ADV was also around 8 million. Now the ADV is 11 million. So we got a different ball game out there. But either way, SPY seems like it's poised to hit it today. Nearly 7 million contracts on the tape already. The S also no slouch. We all know the S in either of its flavors, the SPY, the S, whatever you want to call it out there. The S&P 500 loves itself a little bit of whipsaw intraday action. We are seeing that. So as a result, we are seeing a little bit of paper out there. The S, 2.3 million contracts. The ADV, nearly 3.91 million. So pretty robust day. Both of those well on their way to hitting their ADV today. How are small caps looking? They're looking active, but not quite as hot as maybe you'd expect. The ADV is a little bit north of 1.6 million. They're at 720 right now, so a little bit shy of halfway to their ADV in small caps. And the Qs, once again, hot out of the gate, 3.33 million. That's a lot of threes out there, listeners, in the Qs. The ADV, 5.25 million. So yeah, we're probably going to hit that out there today. So a spicy one across the board. Is it equally spicy in the land of single names? And you know what? Just to be fair, listeners, just because I'm the fair guy that I am, I will make sure that we have up to the minute, up to the second numbers for you folks, just to make sure we don't miss a single contract, so I don't besmirch unfairly. And if you're saying to yourself, hey, self, is it a hot day today? The answer out there, I would say no. It's shy of 250,000 contracts. That's all right. It's certainly not the 150, 160 range we've seen in, the dog days of summer. It's also not north of 350, which I really kind of consider to be a hot, spicy day in the single names. But it's something. It's 250,000 contracts. It's actually 243, a little bit shy of that. That gets us to our old pal, Goog L, aka Alphabet Class A, 153.86, off about $0.50 today. They've had a range of 150.66 to the downside, 154.35. So they've had some range, some action out there today. Right now, number 10, 243. All this range not translating into a ton of paper. You might be forgiven for expecting, 100,000 more to break into the top 10 at least. But we're not there today, listeners. Number 9, my old stomping grounds, a name that's been kind of hot of late, then cold again, then hot again. What is it today? Let's find out. Looks a little bit cold right now. It's Intel, 22 1/3, off about $0.33, or about 1.5%. Range today of 21 3/4 to the downside, 22 double to the upside. Good for number 9. 242 On the tape, number 8, the monster. Is it monstrous? Is it looking a little bit more scared and puny today? Let's find out. Number 8, the monster, 244 on the tape. So actually, when we bumped up Google's 243, so actually Intel should be about right around 243 as well, and then 244 for the monster. So a couple of thousand contracts separating all of our bottom top 10 out here, listeners. But the monster, number 8, 244 on the tape, listeners. Is it monstrous? 288.84, off about 60 cents, so not even 0.25%. Today it's had a range, though. It's had quite the range. 294.88 to the upside, 272.80 to the downside, so a $22.08 range on the day for the monster. My goodness. They shellacked it, and then Uncle Mike sent out his newsletter to his cabal cronies, and they just started buying. Well, maybe not MicroStrategy. I don't know if Uncle Mike's cabal cronies are down with buying a little bit. Maybe some of them are. They just don't tell them. They're secret bulls on Bitcoin. Either way, MicroStrategy having quite the day, even though not reflected a ton in the volume just yet. Number 7, AMD, 101 and a third, off nearly $2, about $1.90 out there today. Range on the day, 102.14 to the upside, 98.80 to the downside, coming in at number 7 today. 285 for a good old AMD. Number 6, it's Meta. It still is one of the better performers of the Magnificent Seven. Also one of the few that hasn't been taken to the woodshed as aggressively as the rest. That said, it is coming off some decent highs out there earlier in February. 736. So if you go from year to date, it was 599 to start the year. It's 570 right now. It's only off about 28 handles, a little over, not even 5% compared to a lot of the other names out there. That's actually pretty good. We see a lot of Mag 7, 20% if not more to the downside. Nvidia threatened the par strike. We'll get there in a bit, listeners. But if you go obviously to their highs earlier this year, they got all the way from start of the year 599 all the way up to 736. They had quite the run. Then Valentine's Day, that was it. No love for Meta after Valentine's Day. Right back down to where we are, 570. So now they're losing on the year. Still, again, compared to a lot of the Mag 7, looking comparatively better. But still red on the year right now. Meta, number 6, 303 listeners on the tape for Meta. Number 5, to the fruit company land we go. It's Apple, 119.68, bucking the trend, up $1.80, or not quite 1%. Had a range today of 216.25 to the downside, 221.02 to the upside. So quite the range. Apple off almost 10% year to date. So again, just compare that to Meta out there. And from its high wasn't on February 14th. It was February 25th of this year, 247. If you go back, 52-week high was obviously higher, got up to 260. But yeah, wild times out there in Apple, even though not a ton of paper for them either, number 5. But, if we're talking wild times, we got to jump to this one, number 4. This name, I don't even know what really to say about this name anymore. We've kind of said it all. It was threatening the par strike. We were just talking about it the last time we were talking about on the show. It was threatening 100 again. We're like, wow, I guess the bulls are back. More buyers than sellers. All those buyers are gone, listeners. It is Palantir taken back to the woodshed, 258 to the downside, trading 83.25, off exactly 3% today. That said, on the day, it got as low as 78.75. So if you had sold those 80 puts and you were dancing all the way as it ran up to the par strike and you didn't close them out, that's on you. Because we broke through that strike again this morning. Man, if you were buying those par calls also and didn't sell anything against them, it's also on you, unfortunately, because that par strike looks like a distant memory. But then again, it's Palantir. Wait 5 minutes. We could be breaking 90 again. It is a wild beast. Yeah, in the last 5 days, listeners, this name is now off 14 handles, or pretty much 14%, because it was right at the par strike, pretty much. Man, and then it broke the 80 handle in the other direction. Just wild, this name, what's been going on out here. Number 4, Palantir, 464. Tell you what, let's look really quickly. Let's just look really quickly. I can't help myself. Listen. It's the April 60 puts. 65,000 of these bad boys going up out there today. That's the big dog out there in Palantir. April 60 puts. Very interesting. Followed by number 2, April 80 puts. That one makes a lot more sense. That's a strike we just broke through today. Let's just see really quickly. Is that maybe a bit of a ratio put spread or anything along those lines? Those April 60 puts traded for 67 cents this morning, 18,000 times. That also looks like it might be fun little flash pull out there for all you folks out there. 70 puts traded 212. Looks like 60 puts, looks like they probably were sales. They traded 71 cents. So we could say prices around 70. By the way, these are expiring April 25th, listeners. These are later in April. I say out loud to no one in particular because I'm alone in the studio here, listeners. All right, let's keep rolling. Wow, Palantir. Have you been slinging some Palantir? Fascinating stuff afoot here. Number 4, 468. Number 3, the Amazonians. Can it possibly compete with the madness that is Palantir? Well, it's giving it the old college try today. 188.41 off 4 1/3 or 2 1/4% just today. Had a range today of 189.36 to the upside, 184.40 to the downside. So wild times out here in Amazon as well. Not quite as wild over the last 5 days. It's only off a comparatively paltry 7.5%. Not off the 15% that Palantir is in that same time frame. But similar price level, off about 15 handles or so too. Interesting stuff out there in good old the Amazonians. Number 2, now we jump up quite a bit. Number 3, 478, kind of sleepy. And then number 2, listeners. Number 2 is where we start getting action-packed. Can you guess what it is today? Is it Nvidia or Tesla? Nope, it is Tesla. If you guessed Nvidia number 2, you were wrong. 254.42 coming right back down the other way. 913 to the dark side. Easy for me to say, off 3 1/4%. Had a range today of 243.36, a high of 256.90. On the car front, let me just say, as someone who did participate in that grand American tradition this weekend of going out to look at cars before the tariffs hit, it was a wild scene out there, listeners. We had some cars we had an eye on. We went out to go look at them. And as we were pulling into the lot, they were driving out that car because it was already sold. People are going wild on the car front right now. So if you're intrigued by an automobile and you were kind of sitting on the sidelines, maybe take a look. It's interesting what's going on out there. Number 2, Tesla, not so much on the bullish side. And year to date, it has been obviously an abomination, off 33% so far this year, about 125 handles. And from their high of 428, they're off about $1.75 or so, close to it. So just a wild time for Tesla. Number 2, by the way, he's taken X/Twitter now and shoving it in with his AI startup. So all kinds of shenanigans going on behind the scenes in Musk land for all stock deals. Interesting stuff out there. And number 1, once again, listeners, reclaiming its throne, saying, get out of here, kid. It's Nvidia. 105.62, off another $4 or nearly 4%. Let's see, as low as 103.65, so it was $2 lower. We are threatening the par strike now in Nvidia, listeners. So it got me wondering, are you folks out there, are you nibbling at a little Nvidia at this level? Are you maybe selling a par put? Or are you saying, the hell with that, this thing could get cut even further before I would even consider touching this? Or are you like, man, it's already been taken to the woodshed. Gimme, buy, Uncle Mike style. I'm curious. We might have to do a question of the week about that as well. Number 1, Nvidia, 2.44 million on the tape, listeners. In terms of earnings, we're kind of coming to the dregs of the season, unless you're really excited about BlackBerry and Restoration Hardware on Wednesday, or Conagra Brands on Thursday, listeners. So, Penguin Solutions, everyone's favorite, also after the bell on Thursday. So not a ton lighting it up. Luckily for you, we still have all the data that we've crunched for you completely for free because we love you folks and like to give you the smooches in the form of data. Check it out for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. You will see the earnings trades out there before you. As we keep on rolling, listeners, it is time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business on the weirdness and the wildness. Mr. Rock Lobster, if I were to ask you to play a little word association, if I were to say to you, our old pal, the Wolf, a.k.a. Wolf Speed, the Flowmaster and I had a hell of a lot of fun talking about this name last year. What are your enduring memories of our old pal, the Wolf, sir?
Isn't this like Memeville from many moons ago? Wolf Speed.
Not that long ago, sir.
Huh?
It wasn't that long ago.
Wolf. I can't recall it, which I hate to say, but I can.
Well, then I shall recall it for you, listeners. Let's get out there. Our old pal, the Wolf Speed. Remember, wasn't that long ago, listeners. The Flowmaster and I were just having a ball with just the name alone. Wolf Speed. It's absurd. You take two completely dissimilar terms, wolf and speed, and you shove them together because it sounds cool. And you get Wolf Speed. We're like, what does this name even do? They call themselves a semi-wide band. Easy for me to say. Semi. I can't even read it. Listen, wide band gap semiconductor. Should be a couple more hyphens in those words, I think. Wide band gap semiconductor manufacturer. But you do a little bit of digging. Actually, some of our keen-eyed listeners wrote in and say that's the old Cree light bulbs. You're like, oh, by comparison, Wolf Speed sounds a hell of a lot cooler than Cree making their old, LED light bulbs. And as you'll recall, listeners, we talked about it on the show last September and October. The Wolf was just dominating our tape. It was all over the place. Folks could not get enough of the Wolf. Last September 26th, we talked about the Wolf $8 calls. Paper buying them for $1. Flowmaster was profiling them as well. We were like, what's going on in the Wolf? The Wolf is wild. We came back a week later in October. We talked about the Feb 10s when the stock was $7 exactly. Someone said, Feb 10s, I must have you. Give me 2,000 of them for 70 cents, exactly 10% of the price of the stock out there, listeners. It was just a wolf palooza all in that September and October time frame. And maybe if you look at this chart, you'll maybe see why. A year ago, listeners, this stock was trading pretty much $30, $29.90. And it was hovering up there, and then it kind of fell out of bed. Got to about $7.50 or so right in that time frame, that September-October time frame. And then it started rallying. By October, it got up to nearly $16 again. So all those crazy calls we were talking about, we're looking hot, we're looking spicy. Then it fell out of bed. November 20th, back to $6.44. Then they tried to rally it again, December. Here we go. Here comes the Wolf back on our radar. $11.10, nearly doubling. And then that was it, listeners. That was all she wrote. The mighty Wolf, listeners, is no more. The mighty Wolf has been slain, or is on death's door, let's say. Mr. Rock Lobster, today, the mighty Wolf is rallying today. It's gaining 30 cents. It is down sub $3 now, Mr. Rock Lobster. $2.89. So all I could say, Mr. Rock Lobster, is, man, the mighty Wolf has fallen. What paper did we see out there today, listeners? You saying, sub $3? Somebody's got to be loading up on the 3 calls, right? Swinging for the upsides. It's the Wolf, baby. They were just paying 70 cents for the 10s. They got to love the 3s. And the answer is no, Mr. Rock Lobster. They were scrambling to get all the 3 puts they can get. Someone paid nearly $1 earlier this morning with the stock right around here, 98 cents for the 3 puts. So yeah, do the math, listeners. Stopping yourself out at $2.02. They came back. They've been trading hot and heavy all morning. A total of 31,000 of these bad boys going up this morning. But it does seem like, for the most part, paper has been buying these bad boys. So Mr. Rock Lobster, we go from a hot, wild named, super memey stock that people can't buy enough upside on to now they are paying a third of the remaining value of the stock to buy puts, sir. What has happened? How has the mighty Wolf fallen so far, sir?
This is, I sometimes I love the data that you get. Like, so Live Vol, I guess they get their data from Thomson Reuters. It says that the Wolf has $10 per cash per share, and the stock's trading for $2.90. Something about that doesn't seem right. Or they got like a ton of debt or whatever. But anyway, yes, it appears that the Wolf has fans, but then the Wolf just doesn't produce. 10 calls for 70. Like, I guess this is also some stuff from last year, but how many times have we seen buyers of the 3 puts get rewarded from their purchase in the last couple years? Much more
than you would think.
than I would think. So, and again, like the sniff test, these puts are 31,000 are trading right now. 31,000 trade today. So, and they're already trading over $1. So, like day one, buying the 3-level put on a stock and you're making money. Not a lot, but still, that's quite remarkable. Plus, the 4 calls are worth 50 cents. So there is a large, there is a sizable difference of opinion in this here stock.
That there is, listeners. Can you believe how far the mighty Wolf has fallen? Would you be paying nearly $1 for puts on a $3 stock? That does lead into our question of the week this week. It kind of inspired it. We'll get to it in a little bit right now, listeners. But first, let's go out to another new name. I do believe we talked about this one before, but it has been quite a while. This is Dynatrace Inc., ticker symbol DT. This is an American multinational tech company that provides an observability platform to monitor and analyze and optimize application performance. Oh, it's also cybersecurity night. Okay, so they have just a lot of buzzwords. They don't have AI in there, which is interesting. That's the one buzzword they're missing. They have everything else in there. Dynatrace DT trading $46.90 off $1.50 or a little over 3%. So not a great day for them. On the year, though, it's been decent. Well, actually, I take it back. It was better. Not that great right now. They're up $1.16. So I guess compared to the lion's share of the Mag 7, they're doing all right. But outside of that, listeners, it hasn't been the best of years out there for them because they got all the way up to $63. Again, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, the line of demarcation for a lot of names out there. No love post Valentine's Day. Ever since then, it's fallen out of bed from $63 back to where it is right now, $46.90. Poised to go red on the year pretty shortly out here, listeners. So interesting times for someone to be coming in and saying, April 52 halves, how are they? They got 15 cents at 20, which is an interesting and tight market for this name. They said, I will pay 20 cents, 3,789 times. The stock was about 20 cents lower, so they're getting a little bit of stock lift working for them. They don't get earnings, though. Earnings are on April 14th. Mr. Rock Lobster, this name's been falling out of bed since Valentine's Day, but somebody's coming to the rescue, buying a little bit of April upside for 20 cents. What are your thoughts?
I would say this is 4 days ago, the stock was $52, right? So I think as a cheap shot goes, this does not look like a terrible choice. I have to be honest with you. So they might be trading the Liberation Day binary event in this one. That's kind of what
Liberation Day. Is this our Gulf of America name we're coming up with now for the
I believe I'm only just reading the headline news. I like to think I could make up Liberation Day, but I just got it from Twitter.
That's your first mistake. You're quoting Twitter, sir, which is the beginning of a dark rabbit hole to go down. But yeah, the Evolve
is quite dark.
By the way, listeners, the Evolves, they liked them so much they did a total of 12,000 on the day, so they weren't done with the 3,000 lot. They were just getting started. They paid 15 cents for some early in the morning, so they were definitely buying these because the earlier print was a nickel at 50. That's why that market was so tight. That makes more sense. When you see a market like that, it kind of makes me wonder. The old market maker in me starts saying, So yeah, nickel at 15. They paid 15 cents 3,000 times. Then they came back. How are they now? And they kept going up, and they got 15 to 20. Eventually, they paid 20. Total of 12,000 on the day. But I want to get this one in here really quickly before we toss to Uncle Mike. This is a newcomer. This is the Evolve Holdings Technology. It's so new to us here on the network. It doesn't even have a description on my platform for what the hell this thing does. They're just evolving technologies here, listeners. It's 308 today, up 6 cents today on the year. Kind of a rough one, off $2 or 40%. They got as low as $2 back in June, and the high was 5.25. That looks like that was back in the that was actually back at the beginning of the year in April. So It's been a rough one, a wild one for Evolve Technology, but someone, Mr. Rock Lobster, they have earnings after the bell today. Somebody really wants them to evolve. They came back in this morning, so they actually already have a little bit of a scoop here. They paid with the stock $2.90, so about 20 cents below. They paid 40 cents for the May 3s. Out of the money, now in the money calls. They did it 1,673 times. That's a 105 vol, so it's not nothing, listeners. They are buying a little bit of duration, but again, you're paying a hefty chunk, but you're getting earnings immediately after the bell today. So we'll know by Thursday whether this was a good trade or not, Mr. Rock Lobster, even though it goes all the way out to May. What are your thoughts? May 3s, 40 cents right before the earnings, sir.
They got a shot. I mean, it's one of those, does this used to be a SPAC or something? The company is developing artificial intelligence-based weapons detection at schools and hospitals and everything. This is one of those, it could work. I'm just saying it's possible. It's possible for it to work, I would say.
It is possible. Do you like these, listeners? May 3s for 40 cents? We'll find out tonight. If you want them, get in while the getting's good. The stock has moved, so they probably moved a bit as well. But intriguing stuff, complete roll of the dice. But you know what's never a roll of the dice? It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, listeners, it is time to unleash the bull known as Uncle Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what you got for us this week?
I want to talk about reallocation. And I think it's important in a market like this with which to have your plans in place as to what you do if certain things happen. So let's talk about it from a non-option level to start with, and then we'll talk about how it would work within an option level. Let's say that you're in a 60-40 portfolio and the market goes down and the bond market goes higher or even stays the same for that matter, whatever the case may be. When you get to certain points, you need to reallocate and go back to where you want to be initially. So for example, let's say you start out with $60 in stocks and $40 in bonds. Once again, I'm just making up numbers to keep it simple. Market's down roughly 5% on the year. So that means that instead of having $60 in stocks, if the market's down 5%, and let's just assume you had an SPY or something like that, then you now have only $58.50 in stocks. You may have a little bit more money in bonds, who knows, but with that happening, you need to perhaps sell some bonds and buy some stocks. And by doing that, you've gotten back to the allocation with which you wanted in the first place of being 60-40. Now, let's take this to the next level. Let's say that you want to have a protective put against your stock with which you own, or a protective put against the basket of stocks with which you own. Why is it a basket of stocks, by the way? I'm just thinking of that. Why can't we have a barrel of stocks? I think I might start putting my stocks in barrels now that I think about it. But anyway, let's say that the protective put has increased in value over the course of Q1. And you know that, and your option expires today, let's say, the end of Q1. Well, you have profits on your put option. What you can do is then sell the put for a profit, and then you can buy another put for the next quarter, let's say, or year, or month, day, whatever. And then if you have any money left over, a way with which you can allocate some of that gain in your put option is by buying more stock. And what that does is that keeps you allocated the initial way with which you wanted to be allocated in the first place. Now, when and how you should reallocate. That is something that is up to you for your own trading rules, your own investment rules, whatever the case may be. But the why, I think it's very important, because unless you have a reason to change your allocation, your outlook, your strategy, whatever the case may be, you need to stay with it. And if you don't have rules in place, once again, the when and the how is up to you. But if you don't have rules in place, then eventually you're going to get away from your strategy. Stocks are going to go so significantly higher, let's say, that your 60-40 will no longer be 60-40. It could be 70-30, and you might not have the risk profile that you wanted. Or let's say that stocks go lower and then you don't reallocate with your rules, they go higher, then you might not be as protected as you want to be with a protective put. And this can go for any option strategy you can think of or any allocation you can think of. Once again, just have a plan for your reallocations.
All right, and now it's time for us to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's go around the block really quickly. Let's check in on our questions of the week that just went live. It was inspired by the trade we were just talking about, listeners, here with our old pal, the Wolf, paying $1 for puts on a $3 stock. We thought, hey, very simply, how low will you go when trading options? What's your limbo bar for trading options? What stock/underlying price do you say, that's it? That's too cheap. I'm just trading the underlying. Is it $10? Is it $5? Is it $2? Or are you wild beast? You have no limits out there, listeners. And that actually is what's taking it right now. 57% saying you have no limits. You go crazy. You go where the paper takes you. You don't care about where the stock is trading. That's for plebs. That's for pedestrian traders out there, listeners. You're advanced. You're seasoned. You say, I go where my whims take me. Everything else, 2, 5, and 10, both tied close to 14%. Again, this just went live about an hour ago as the show started. Our old pal, Age Del Aquarius, it must not be a home working day. I don't see him in the pro chat. He says, I follow the Viceroy. Good advice. He says, $10 is the floor. The lowest I've gone is doing the wheel trade with Ford. Yes. Mr. Overby's cut off. So you got two of our cheap stock friends in there on the network, both in one reply. So there you go. You can tell he's been listening for a while. Out there. Also really fun. We have a flash poll. Just went live a few minutes ago. We said, hey, how you guys like those April 60 puts in Palantir trading for 70 cents this morning? These are expiring on the 25th now, listeners, not regular monthly. We said, are you a buyer or a seller? Are you staying the hell away from Palantir? Right now, 83% of you want to sell them. Only about 17% want to buy them. So interesting. A lot of sellers for 70 cents. Oh, that just ticked. Now 10% of you want to stay away from Palantir, and about 20% of you want to buy those. So interesting stuff. Get over there, add options. That one will be live the rest of the day, so you podcast players can play along as well. All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week? And also, B, where should folks go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness in their lives?
Well, I'm keeping an eye on Liberation Day on the 2nd, direct from the White House Rose Garden. And who the heck knows what happens until and after that. So, and come to optionpit.com for all your option learning. Optionpit.com.
Liberation Day, indeed, listener. He's already changed. He's already scrawled off with marker all of his maps. They all say Gulf of America now over there in Rock Lobster land. Check him out if you want to discuss all things options, listeners. Optionpit.com is the place to go. And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week? And then B, if folks want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, I think Liberation Day is the big topic of the week this week, so I'll be watching that along with the 5,500 level on the SPX. And another note, we should get a market for futures on the percentages of our listener polls. How cool would that be? Is if we could bet on trade based upon what we feel our listener polls are going to be. That's an idea. We'll have to submit that one to the mark.
That would be cool. I mean, people have asked us in the past, hey, you should have some sort of crypto options insider coin. Maybe it'll be a utility token. Maybe it'll go around that. It'll go on the results of our poll for that week. What do you think?
Oh, I like that. That would be some crypto I would invest in. Anyway, with that, if you'd like to, speaking of investing, if you'd like a financial advisor who delves in the option product, among other things, feel free to check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. Love to have a conversation with any of our listeners.
There you go. Check them out, stcharleswealth.com. That music means we've come to the end of the show. But don't worry if you want more content in your lives. If you're hanging out in the pro, just hang out. We'll be back in a little bit with the folks from Rex Financial joining me in the crypto hot seat to talk all things lighting up the crypto market out there. It was a wild one last week. We talked about wine, tokenizing wine and trading options on that, on the blockchain. All kinds of weird stuff comes on that show. If you want to check out what's going on, it's wild stuff. Join us for the Crypto Rundown. If you're listening on demand, just hit next on your device of choice. Should be waiting there for you. Back again tomorrow. We've got a fun, the advisors option coming up tomorrow with our good buddy, Mr. Matt from ORAD. So stay tuned for that. Good old AO. Always fun. Wednesday, of course, a doubleheader of Options Boot Camp and the Futures Rundown. Then we're back again on Thursday with the Flowmaster. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.